He got home at 4:31 in the morning. She knew the exact minute, because it was the same minute he came home the last time. Saturday was the baby shower. The mansion was booked, the decorations matched the maternity shoot, the guests were already flying in. And Jonathan Porter, Blueface, walked through his own front door in yesterday's clothes, smiling, dancing, telling Nevaeh Akira how beautiful she looked, while Michael Jackson's Billie Jean played in the background. The kid is not my son. You cannot script that. Except somebody might have. Because about an hour later, somebody knocked on that front door, and it wasn't the mailman. 60,000 people were watching live. And the cameras never once considered turning off. Real quick, if you're the type who reads the fine print while everybody else reads the headline, tap in with the channel, ring the bell so the next case doesn't slip past your feed, and ride with me through this one. The paper on this one is different. Here's the situation. August 16th, 2026. Los Angeles. Blueface and his pregnant girlfriend Nevaeh Akira were scheduled to host a baby shower for their son, Superior, whose due date is August 24th, a date the couple had been publicly counting down for weeks. The venue was a mansion. The guest list reportedly included Adam 22 and Vlad TV. The whole thing streamed live, and before the first guest walked in, Chrisean Rock, Blueface on again off again of 6 years, showed up at the front door. What happened next played out, start to finish, in front of a live audience. One more name belongs on this board before we start. Carlissa Saffold, Blueface mother, and a recurring on-camera presence in this saga, who earlier this year publicly raised her own questions involving a grandparent DNA test kit for hot new hip-hop. One more location. 2. Craig County, Oklahoma, where a separate docket carrying Chrisean Rock's name has been active since February 2022, according to the Oklahoman. And one more date, August 2024, the month the Los Angeles courtroom handed Jonathan Porter a 4-year sentence. Pin all 3. They matter later. Okay, so let's lay the paper on the table. Blueface walked in that morning still in the previous day's outfit. On stream, Nevaeh clocked it immediately, the same fit, the same everything. His explanation, delivered on camera, was that he fell asleep in the car. When she asked what car, because the Range Rover was sitting outside, he said the homeless car, parked at a 7-Eleven, shooting dice. He said he woke up at 4 o'clock, remembered the baby shower, and came straight home. Hold on. I need to sit with that for 1 second. A man with his money, asleep in a borrowed car, in a convenience store parking lot, the morning of his son's baby shower. That's the official story. That's what's on the record. And about a man with his money, pull the court paper before pricing that phrase. Fox 11 Los Angeles ran it plain when it happened. Blueface handed 4-year prison sentence. The rapper sentenced in August 2024 for violating probation tied to a 2021 assault case. Court paper, not blog arithmetic. Flat reaction. A man quoting $65 million into a live camera carries a 4-year sentence in his recent review. File that number under aspiration, not accounting. Then there's the timestamp. Nevaeh, mid-argument, told him, "You came back just at this time the other day, 4:31. She didn't say early. She didn't say late. She had a minute, which means she's been tracking arrivals, which means this wasn't the first 4:31. And then the knock. On stream, Nevaeh asked who was at the door. Blueface said it was the mailman. There was no mailman. It was Chrisean Rock, who later confirmed on her own live that she was in fact at his door that morning and said she'd actually been invited to the baby shower before deciding not to attend. Invited to the baby shower of the woman currently carrying his child. Sit with that however you need to. Chrisean, by the way, arrived at that door carrying her own file. The Oklahoman reported she was processed into the Craig County Jail in August 2024 for charges filed in February 2022, and XXL reported she was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 12 months probation in California before the Oklahoma extradition. 2 open chapters, 2 states paper. Amused, barely, the woman at the door has a longer docket history than most people's favorite rapper. And she still made the drive. Nevaeh saw her through the door, and by her own words on stream, she went to get a poker. A poker. On baby shower day. Now, the money layer. Because there's always a money layer. In the days before the shower, Posts circulating claimed Blueface had spent roughly $10,000 on Chrisean, which is reportedly what set Nevaeh off going into the weekend. And during the stream itself, Blueface told Nevaeh, on camera, at the venue, mid-greeting, "I spend my money, while she was saying hello to their guests. About that money he kept quoting, "There's a dashboard for it," and he displayed it himself. Blueface revealed publicly that he pulls in $25,000 a week streaming on Kick with, and this is the load-bearing detail, only about $1,000 of that coming from subscriptions per hot new hip-hop. The rest runs on the platform's programs, hours live, engagement, volume. Silence from me on that one. Just read the structure again. The viewership numbers did their own talking. When Blueface first walked in, the room jumped from around 25,000 to 30,000. He announced it himself, "I'm the man of the hour." By the time they were at the venue, the stream was pushing 60,000 concurrent viewers. And compress the calendar while those numbers are still warm. Posts circulated late last year reporting Blueface has reportedly been released from prison, noting the release followed a 4-year sentence handed down in August 2024. Which means the runway between custody and Saturday's 60,000-person baby shower broadcast measures in months, not years. Dry observation. Most people re-enter society quietly. This re-entry came with a concurrent count. That's the filing. Those are the exhibits. Now let me show you how they line up, because the order of events is where this stops being a domestic argument and starts being something else. Sequence first. The $10,000 spending story surfaces. Then, days later, the man disappears the night before the shower. Then he returns at the exact minute Nevaeh already has on file from a previous disappearance. Then, within roughly an hour of him walking in, Chrisean is at the door. On the morning of the shower. Not the night before. Not the day after. The morning of. One more layer under the sequence. The sentencing receipt from Fox 11 is dated August 2024. The release report surfaced late 2025. And the biggest broadcast day of his life lands mid-August 2026, 2 Augusts apart from the worst day of his legal life, nearly to the week. The pattern reads as a man who rebuilds every August. Whether the calendar drove Saturday or Saturday just inherits the calendar, that one I genuinely can't settle, and I've stared at it longer than I'd like to admit. And a question I haven't answered yet, because nobody on that stream asked it, which 7-Eleven? Los Angeles has hundreds. The story came with a parking lot, dice, a borrowed car, a 4 o'clock wake-up, and no address. Hold that. It pays off near the end. Wait. Back up, because this is the part. Nevaeh's own livestream confession in the car, she admitted she'd once shown up at his door the same way. His response, "I knocked at your phone line. I knocked at your phone line." Meaning, in his telling, the difference between them is that his version of showing up is digital and Hayes was physical. Except, Chrisean showed up physical. At his door. And his energy for that? Nothing. Flat. I thought it was the mailman. He saved every decibel of outrage for the pregnant woman in the passenger seat. She said it herself, on stream, and honestly it's the most observant line in the whole day. He ain't have that energy for her at his door, though, but got some energy in the car with me. Yeah, somebody in the comments can probably tell me whether there's a single recorded instance of him raising his voice at Chrisean on arrival anywhere, any year, because I went looking and I came up empty. Now thread Chrisean's paper into it, because the Craig County docket changes the temperature of that door moment. She isn't a side character with free weekends. She's a woman with charges dating to February 2022, per the Oklahoman's reporting, who has already done jail time this cycle and remains entangled with Oklahoma. Which means Saturday wasn't a celebrity dropping by. It appears to be 2 people with open files, standing on either side of a camera-lit doorway, 1 hour after a 4:31 arrival. 2 dockets, 1 doorbell, 60,000 witnesses. The pattern doesn't need a narrator. It needs a case number. The Billie Jean thing has a longer fuse than one morning. 2. Blueface has publicly claimed he ran a DNA test on Chrisean Jr. that excluded him as the father. Chrisean later shared test results she said confirmed him, per her own post circulating online. Claims, counterclaims, kits in the mail. Paternity in this orbit isn't a question, it's a content vertical. So when that specific song queued up as he crossed the threshold Saturday, it lines up with a library, not a mood. I'm not assigning intent to a playlist. I'm noting the shelf it sits on. Sit with the invite itself for one beat, because it's the quietest mechanic in the whole day. An invitation that gets publicly declined and then quietly exercised is a pressure valve. Whoever extended it owns plausible deniability. She said she wasn't coming, while the person arriving absorbs every ounce of the disruption. The mailman line only works if somebody on the inside had reason to expect a real arrival and reason to rename it. Declined on Thursday's paperwork, present on Saturday's doorstep. That sequence appears to be management, not surprise. And then the stream stayed on. That's the part one keeps circling. At the venue, mid-chaos, mid-argument, the obvious move, the human move, is to cut the feed, greet your guests, let the woman have her day. They discussed everything except that, because 60,000 people were watching, and 60,000 people on a live stream is not an audience. It's inventory. Now zoom all the way in. Because there are two details inside this day that tell you more than the screaming does. First detail, Billie Jean. When Blueface walked in, Nevaeh had Michael Jackson playing, specifically the most famous paternity denial song ever recorded. This is a couple whose public mythology already runs through paternity questions. Blueface's own father publicly questioned Nevaeh's pregnancy timeline earlier this year. Was the song a coincidence? Maybe. But this is a household that lives on camera, where every choice is content. That needle drop was a statement, a joke, or prophecy, and I'm genuinely not sure which. Second detail, the number 3. During the car argument, Blueface said it was his first baby shower. Nevaeh answered, flat, it's my third baby shower. Third. So while he's framing the entire event as his production, I brought this, I'm gonna make sure of it every day. She's carrying the context of having done this twice before, without him, under circumstances she clearly hasn't forgotten. And his response to third baby shower was to keep talking about the money. He kept saying $65 million at the venue like the number itself was a guest. Third detail. And I had to read this twice. Chrisean said she was invited. Not that she pulled up unannounced. Invited. If that's true, then the mailman bit at the door wasn't a man improvising. It was a man managing a schedule. Fourth detail. And this one's a legal read. Because the number underneath Saturday isn't $65 million, it's 4. 4 years. That's the sentence Fox 11 documented in the 2021 assault probation case, and out in Nevada, a judge suspended a 2 to 5 year sentence and granted up to 3 years of probation in a separate Las Vegas case, per 8 News Now. Suspended is the load-bearing word. A suspended sentence means the cage stays unlocked behind him. Every public mess isn't just content, it's exposure. One bad Saturday inside the wrong jurisdiction and the paper he signed does the talking. Okay, quiet second here. A father of soon-to-be 3, 8 days from a birth, carrying a suspended sentence into a live-stream confrontation at his own front door. That's not shade. That's arithmetic with stakes. Detail number 5, behavioral lens, and it's the tick nobody clipped. Count the grammar of his alibis across one morning. Fell asleep in the car. I thought it was the mailman. I knocked at your phone line. 3 separate statements, 1 identical move. Take a physical fact, an absence, an arrival, a visit, and convert it into something softer, smaller, half-digital. The car becomes sleep. The woman becomes a postal worker. The door becomes a phone line. That isn't lying scattered. That appears to be a single reflex, polished. People improvise different ways under pressure. He reaches for the same conversion every time. Once you hear the pattern, you can't unhear it. And Nevaeh, tracking arrivals to the minute, clearly heard it a long time ago. Full transparency on the last one, business lens, and this receipt sat in the folder through the entire build, because I wanted you to feel Saturday before I priced it. The complex relationship timeline reminds everybody where this whole model comes from. The relationship with Chrisean began in 2020, on camera, through his OnlyFans reality show Blue Girls Club. Read that origin slowly. The relationship wasn't interrupted by cameras. The relationship was commissioned by them. 6 years later, a woman he's cycled with since a paid reality program is at his door at baby shower hour, and the feed stays live. I'm not saying origin determines outcome. I'm saying when a relationship's birth certificate is a content release form, nothing that follows is improvisation. It's inheritance. And look at how the coverage split, because the framing war on this one is its own receipt. One lane of coverage ran it as comedy, the knock, the poker, the mailman excuse, clipped for laughs. Another lane ran it as pure disrespect content, new level of disrespect framing, Nevaeh as the wrong party. And the fan camps did what fan camps do. Team Chrisean pointed at Nevaeh's own admission that she'd once been the woman at the door. Team Nevaeh pointed at the 431 timestamp and the $10,000. One framing deserves its own paragraph, because it's the quiet one. The Shade Room filed Saturday inside its long-running complicated relationship listicle, a running timeline product they've maintained for years. Notice what that frame does. Complicated is a verb-free adjective. Nobody does anything in a complicated relationship. Things merely happen. That word choice launders agency, a morning with an arrival time, a door lie, and a hot feed becomes weather. And weather doesn't have defendants. The clip pages leaned even harder. Scan the verbs across the aggregate uploads, crashes, spazzes, goes off. Action words, all assigned to the women. Blueface, in headline after headline, grammatically vanishes from his own morning. That isn't an accident of copy editing. That's the market pricing which participant drives clicks and which participant drives ad-friendly thumbnails. This one's going to divide the timeline. I can feel it already. Half of you reading those verbs as descriptions, half as instructions. Now, the strongest counter-read, and I want to give it its full weight before I touch it. The counter-read is, this is a family having a chaotic morning on a platform built for chaotic mornings. Nevaeh knew exactly what relationship she entered. She said worse about herself, and turning domestic friction into a morality play is projection from the audience. Here's why I can't get there. The mailman lie. That's the whole case against the counter-read, and it's 4 words. If this were just friction, there's no lie at the door. The lie at the door means there was something to manage. And if there was something to manage at the door, then the timeline, the 431, the 7-Eleven story, the $10,000, the knock within the hour, isn't a bad morning. It's a bad morning with choreography. Now the second counter-read, and this one doesn't come from me. It comes pre-written at the top of every comment section under every clip of that morning. The man just finished a year locked up. He's relearning his life in public. Cut him slack before you hand him a producer credit. Full respect for one beat. Re-entry is real. The adjustment period is documented across 100 stories that have nothing to do with hip-hop, and grace is cheap to demand and expensive to give. And here's why it still collapses on the paper. Re-entry explains confusion. It doesn't explain calibration. A man relearning his life doesn't announce his own viewership spike out loud, man of the hour. He doesn't manage the door with a 4-word cover story. He doesn't keep the feed hot through the venue greeting line. The Kick dashboard predates Saturday. The 431 file predates Saturday. The Blue Girls Club origin predates everybody's excuses. Grace covers a stumble. Saturday appears to be footwork. I already know what the day one camp is about to type. He can't breathe without you grading it. And look, breathe away. Just breathe on camera less, if breathing is the goal. All right. So here's the read I'm willing to stand behind. The mainstream coverage is calling this baby shower drama. That's the headline version. And it's wrong, not because the facts are wrong, but because the category is wrong. This wasn't drama that happened to get filmed. This was a broadcast that happened to be a baby shower. Follow the incentives, because they only point one direction. Blueface is, at this point, less a rapper than a live stream operator with a rap catalog. The product is access. The revenue scales with concurrent viewers. And nothing in that ecosystem performs like relationship combustion. His entire public arc with Chrisean has been a multi-year demonstration that conflict is the highest yield content he produces. They broke up on camera, made up on camera, cycled on camera, and every cycle paid. And the mainstream frame didn't assemble itself. The Shade Room's running complicated relationship listicle, updated for years, refreshed every time these two breathe near a lens, is the reference document half the blogs copy their angle from. When the reference doc is a romance timeline, every new filing gets read as a chapter instead of a charge sheet. That's how a morning carrying this much paper gets filed under drama before lunch. So look at Saturday through that lens. He knows the room jumps 5,000 viewers the second he walks in. He announced it out loud. He knows Chrisean at the door is a 6-figure clip. He knows the argument in the car is a highlight reel. I'm not saying he placed a phone call and choreographed a knock at 9 a.m. I can't prove that, and I won't pretend I can. What I am saying is that a man whose entire income runs on conflict had every incentive to not prevent Saturday and every incentive to keep the camera hot. And every single decision he made, the arrival time, the door management, the energy in the car, the stream staying live at the venue, ran in exactly one direction, toward the audience. Somebody's going to price this as hating, so let me be dry about it. I hold no opinion on who that man loves. I hold a spreadsheet's worth of interest in who that man broadcasts. Those are different ledgers, and only one of them has a dashboard. And the almost sympathetic read, because it earned a line. There is a version of Saturday where he's neither villain nor producer, just a man whose worst instincts and his compensation package point the same direction. That version is sadder than the cynical one. It's also the one the receipts keep declining. Absurdist note, filed anyway. The most stable thing in that house appears to be the Wi-Fi. 60,000 concurrents, a poker in the hallway, a baby due in 8 days, and the bit rate never blinked. Cutting, then, and I'll own it. People keep asking whether Nevaeh deserves better. The paper doesn't grade deserve. The paper grades participation, and Saturday's attendance sheet had 60,000 names on it. The tell, for me, is where the anger landed. Nevaeh's red was surgical. No energy for Chrisean at the door, all the energy in the world for her in the car. If you're genuinely managing two relationships, you absorb that moment quietly. You only fight in the car, in front of 30,000 people, if the fight is the point. And honestly, the person I keep thinking about in all this is the one who isn't born yet. Superior arrives next week into a household where his baby shower was a ratings event. That's not gossip. That's just the record. Okay. I have to say something about this part specifically, and it isn't analysis. The 7-Eleven. I flagged it mid-build and I owe you the close. 2 days of clips, 60,000 live witnesses, and not one frame of that parking lot, not one corroborating angle, no address ever offered. Because the story was never built for verification, it was built for texture. A real alibi gets narrower under pressure. That one just got more colorful. Dice. A borrowed car. A 4 o'clock wake up. That's not testimony, that's set design. And the reason it lands as set design is that everything else on the schedule that morning, the mailman line, the invite valve, the hot feed at the venue, behaved like production too. Deep breath. Back to the paper. And Nevaeh, because she doesn't get a clean pass here either. The third baby shower line, the 431 file she keeps, the admission that she once played the door role herself. She is not a bystander in this economy. She's a co-producer who found out Saturday that her position in the credits is negotiable. So here's what happens next, and I want these on the record, time-stamped, because we're coming back to check them. Watch the next 30 days. The baby arrives on or around August 24th, and the birth will be streamed, clipped, or monetised in some form. There's no version where the most watched week in this channel's history doesn't get cameras. Don't be surprised if Chrisean re-enters the frame within days of the birth. The cycle with her has a half-life of about 2 weeks, and it has never once stayed broken. The likely landing is simple, an apology-adjacent stream, a weird good family photo, and the cycle resetting with 60,000 people as the new baseline. Extend that landing, because the cascade has middle steps people skip. By early September, expect the birth content to split into lanes, the hospital clip, the first photo post, the how are we doing stream, each one its own upload window, each one its own revenue event. Notice how the guest list from Saturday becomes the interview circuit. Adam22 and Vlad TV were reportedly inside that mansion, and podcast chairs are about to open for everybody who stood near the cake. Once the birth clip hits, the 60,000 baseline becomes the floor the next cycle has to beat, and the only fuel this model has ever located for beating a baseline is escalation. If you were inside that venue Saturday and the wide angle missed something, the timestamp's the currency. Comments are below. The wild card is Nevaeh. She's due in 8 days, she's keeping receipts with minute-level precision, and she has now publicly admitted she knows exactly what game she's in. A woman that documented is either the most loyal person in that house or the most dangerous one. If she ever decides the paper trail she's been building is worth more than the relationship, the stream won't be the thing that goes viral. The timeline will be. and her opposition's failure prediction, since fairness is the house style. If Nevaeh's archive ever goes public, the countermove writes itself. She's about to be recast from documentarian to participant, the same she understood the assignment framed the camp's already test drove this weekend. Don't be shocked when old clips of her own door moment recirculate with fresh captions. The machinery that priced Saturday as comedy is about to get aimed at the archivist. Once that pivot hits, her choice stops being stay or leave and becomes publish or perish, and women with minute-level files do not historically choose perish. 5 years out, trace the secondary players, because they inherit this too. Chrisean Jr. grows up alongside a publicly disputed paternity file, claims, counterclaims, a grandmother's kit, all archived, all searchable, none of it is doing. Superior's generation of this family is about to be the first one born with a concurrent view account attached as a birth statistic. And the industry residue, every mid-tier rapper with a plateauing catalog just received a free seminar in what August 16th grossed. By next summer, expect 3 more unfiltered family streams with suspiciously eventful doorways. And the residue? 5 years from now, this weekend won't be remembered as a baby shower or an argument. It'll be remembered as the moment the audience officially became a member of the household. Superior's first week on Earth will have viewership metrics attached to it. That's the aftershock nobody's pricing in. Now, the loop I opened at the top. Why did nobody turn the cameras off? Because 60,000 people were watching, and in that house, the audience isn't watching the family. The audience is the business. You saw the 431. You saw the mailman. You saw where the energy went. If you've got a receipt on this one, especially anybody who was inside that venue Saturday, the comments are open. Hit the like if the paper was worth your time, subscribe if you want the next case, ring the bell so it doesn't get buried, and drop your read below, invited guest or uninvited message. I'm reading everyone. Next file's already on the desk.